Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Talking About Bitcoin. It's not Toxic Happy Hour today. That is the show that I run with my very good friend, Poppy. We do that on this channel as well. So I have two types of content really on the channel. There's the Toxic Happy Hour where we enter the pub, have a beer, and talk. That's right, John, serious mode, and talk about Bitcoin. We have different guests often, and that is a lot of fun. And personally, I find it very educational as well, those Toxic Happy Hours. I learn a lot from the smart people that are there as guests, and always enjoyed my discussions with Poppy. But today, I want to take you guys through a presentation that I have used a couple of times. I presented it back in October to a group of I would call high net worth individuals, and in February I did this presentation on eToro's webinar for club members, where I know some of you from eToro may have seen that before, but now some of the numbers are updated, and my own target has become more aggressive, and I'm looking forward to share it with you guys. Yeah, apologies for Roger Ver there being in the background. I'm running on Amazon Prime. There's I think it's called Magic Internet Money. I just thought I'd have that running in the background. Haven't really seen all of it yet. Anyways, so I guess, is there anything else I need to say before getting into the presentation? I guess I will run through it as much as possible. May take some questions during the presentation, but otherwise I will be answering questions in the end, just to make sure, unless it's something that is very relevant and good to take up, I'll try and keep the flow of the presentation, and then get there, take all the questions in the end. It's really funny sitting here myself being all serious compared to when I do Toxic Happy Hour with Poppy. I absolutely love doing that. But yeah, I want to keep it quite focused on what I find. This presentation, this train of thought is one that I developed myself back in probably early 2017, doing a lot of research, trying to understand what money actually was, or what money is. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to understand with Bitcoin is changing the mindset that we have been brainwashed with, that fiat currency, as dollar, euro, and etc. is called, where there's no backing of any assets. The fact that we have taught that is money, but realizing that it's not, because the definition of money is that you can store value. But that train of thought, although it was something it took time for me to grapple with originally, then once I kind of got through that, I just found this to be a really useful train of thought for me to share with new people that I want to tell about the wonders of Bitcoin, and so I'll take you through what money is, to establish that, because I feel it's a really necessary and useful foundation to understand why Bitcoin is money. I think most people take the jump directly to Bitcoin and then see it as an investment, and oh, that's great, and number go up. But in reality, to understand, I would say with ease and comfort and confidence, that Bitcoin will take over as money of the world and will reach a $20 million target, in my opinion. None of this is financial advice, obviously. Then it's very, very useful to go through that train of thought with what money is. So Bitcoin fits into that. Then it's a very logic step to see why Bitcoin is money. It's very logic to see why it's the best money the world has ever seen. And I would say it's quite logic to see that the market cap that Bitcoin eventually, in my opinion, will reach will be about 400 trillion US dollars per bit, so not per Bitcoin, but in total, which would put each Bitcoin at $20 million. But let's jump into it. Let me see if there is anything from the chat. Hey, UK Bitcoin Master. UK Bitcoin Master is a really good dude. We have him on Toxic Happy Hour tomorrow at 11 a.m. PST. So that's 3 hours earlier than this today. Really good dude that is doing entry level, sharing the word about Bitcoin. I recommend watching tomorrow. He deserves all the support he can, and we'll have a link to his channel. You can watch that as well. Tabradubas came out with $6 million per Bitcoin. That's obviously very bearish. I did maths as well. I'll take you through my train of thought. All right, let's dig into it. I think I will come back and look at the comments probably later. I don't know if I can see it while I do the presentation. And happy to ask all the questions and stay for all the questions you have by the end of the presentation. So let me go take a look at the presentation. Here we go. Let me just have a look. How does that look? All right, you're seeing all of it, and I can still see the chat. That's great. I have this target. Let's get going. Everything I say today is my personal opinion. I'm not in a position to give financial advice to anyone. However, my money is where my mouth is. I am fully allocated to Bitcoin and believe that this is, not only the best opportunity speculation-wise, but also the safest in terms of compared it to stocks and real estate. However, having all that eggs in one basket is, definitely not advisable. So I would say do not do what I do, and this is not financial advice. That would be very risky. I just want to share with you guys what my train of thought is. Absolutely. All right, just check the chat. Let's go. So eToro is a trading platform around the world that is known for being having around the world. You can buy all sorts of assets, specifically stocks. You can buy Bitcoin, etc. But in US so far, you can only buy Bitcoin, and it's copying alternatives that I have zero faith in. And by that, I mean what some people call altcoins. I have no faith in that. I've done other video material on that. In the Toxic Happy Hour also we discussed that. So let me just see how it works. If we'll just do it full screen. All right. So back in October, when I first did this presentation for this group of individuals, individual investors in a private setting, at the time I was the second rated CopyTrader on eToro US. So US is by regulation cut off from the rest of the world. No one in US on eToro, which is known for having the social investing ability where you can copy other people. If you are new to investing, you can say, all right, here's a person that has a really good performance. Let me take my $1,000 or $500 or $10,000 or whatever, and just copy that person with that. So whatever amount of money you copy someone with, whatever, for instance, I do, since I'm in the program, it happens to your money as well in real time, which means, if I sell anything or I buy anything, the same percentage of the money you have copied me with does the same thing immediately. So that's just to explain that. So the thing I like about eToro is the fact that they have this social investing aspect, and I can see and I hear it from a lot of my own copiers that there's a lot of people that are new to investing and they really enjoy this, and they can see the 12 months track record, compare me with everyone else, and yeah, I think it's a pretty cool feature, to be honest. All right, back to the presentation. So at that time in October, I had 490 copiers, means 490 people had allocated money to copy me on eToro, and there was a total of 400,000 US dollars that were copying me. As the price of Bitcoin grows, which I have been saying the entire time it would, it gives other people, I mean, not only does it help my performance against others that have a portfolio containing a lot of other things that I, don't believe in, and so far things are really working out, you could say. As Bitcoin's number go up, people's faith in what I'm doing here increases. Once people see their $500 turn to $1,000, a lot of people choose to then add funds to that copy. What's important is that you add funds to open trades. Otherwise, you just have dirty fiat dollars sitting on the sideline getting diluted by the central banks, instead of being allocated to Bitcoin, which in my opinion is what you want. Again, none of this is financial advice, and of course, warning, Bitcoin can also go the other way. Bitcoin could theoretically, which in my opinion will never happen, but theoretically, of course, it could become worth nothing. I cannot see any situation in this universe or in parallel universes where that would happen. Let me make that straight or clear. So I just have to say it in terms of liability and everything. All right. So in January, oh, I got the numbers wrong. Well, in January, that is correct. So the 6th of January, I had become the most copied so-called popular investor on eToro US. That happened actually back by the end of October. 2,100 people had copied me with part of their savings or funds, and that had turned into an accumulated 6.6 million US dollars that people in US on eToro had copied me with. So here it says 4th of February. That's actually supposed to say 4th of March. This is as of this morning. Still, I am the most copied popular trader on eToro US, both in terms of how many people have allocated funds and also the total amount of allocated funds. If you go to so that's a total of 3,461 copiers as of this morning, and total funds are currently sitting at 10.8 million US dollars. And so what happens, as I said before, when the price of Bitcoin goes up, so does people's faith in what I'm constantly saying in my posts on eToro, and then more funds are allocated or new people come in. But of course, if you want to get a better return, you don't wait till the Bitcoin, the price pumps 20%, then you start allocating before that. All right, back to the presentation. All right, that's nothing really new there or big. That's just introducing. Right. So, question: is Bitcoin real money, or is it just some technology that is smart? Is it it's not physical, it's digital? Can it be described as real money? My answer is yes to all of that. Sure, it's technology, but it's still real money. And I will explain my train of thought by explaining what money is. First, before we go into the properties of money and what decides which commodity in the world becomes money, I want to discuss the role of money, just so we get that clear. And then we go look at how what are the properties of money and what determines what becomes money. So first of all, the role of money. Money is a store of value, and this is where dirty fiat currency, dollar, euro, yen, etc., rubles, call it what you want. That's where that fails. So we have been told that fiat currency is money. It's not. If you look up fiat currency, or if you look up money in the dictionary, then money is something that, and one of the important features of money, as part of the definition, is that it can store value. So US dollars, for instance, and it goes for all of them, they're all, in my opinion, terrible to act as money. They're only currencies. They're not money because they cannot store value. Look it up in the dictionary. It will tell you that money can store value. You know, the official US dollar, since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, 108 years ago, has lost about 97% purchasing power. And I know that they are brainwashing us to believe that that's good for us so we can keep our jobs. But people had jobs before they started taking the value of our savings. So that's, in my opinion, just an absolute utter lie. It's not money, it's currency. Initially, we were forced to use it pretty much at gunpoint. Gold was taken from US citizens in 1933. So yeah, that's just currency and not money. Let's get back to the presentation. So also, money is a unit of account, and unit of account basically means that when we price things, be it a house, be it a car, be it groceries, be it an hourly salary, be it your monthly salary, then money is that unit of account. So far, still, that unit of account is fiat currency around the world for most people. But what I will say is that for me, Bitcoin is the unit of account. If I look at potentially buying a car or buying a bicycle or real estate, anything like that, I look at it as in how much Bitcoin would that cost me. And I have the same conclusion every single time. I'm sorry, UK Bitcoin Meister is saying that video is really choppy here. All I can say is I invested in a network cable, so my computer is directly, physically linked with my Wi-Fi router. So I can't do more on my end. If anything, I need to upgrade my computer, but I was unwilling to buy an expensive computer because that money can be kept in Bitcoin. So I use Bitcoin as a unit of account. I looked at buying a car in October. It was $18,000. The price of Bitcoin was 12,000. So that car would have cost me 1.5 Bitcoin. And I'm like, no, we're in a bull run. We're going way higher. Spending 1.5 Bitcoin on a car is totally unnecessary. So instead, I rent a car when I need it. I take Uber. I don't have a lot of transportation needs, so I wasn't forced to buying a car or having a car. And now that 1.5 Bitcoin is worth $75,000, and I didn't spend anywhere near that, clearly, on renting a car, taking Uber. So for me, Bitcoin already is a unit of account. I recommend you start thinking in those terms as well. Anything you look at, how many Bitcoin does it cost? 1 Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis. That's the subunit of Bitcoin. So you can start, thinking in those terms as well. And then you start realizing that everything in the world is crashing in terms of the price of Bitcoin, which is the whole purpose of Bitcoin as a sound money, to be deflationary. Also, money has the role of being the medium of exchange. So when we make a transaction, money is what we pay each other with. Now, since money was outlawed in US in 1933, and I guess around the world, and you could no longer have gold, you had to, any gold you had to give it to the government in US and accept printed paper notes instead. Printed paper notes that they continue to print more of, so obviously it loses value. As I said, around 97% since the Fed was created. All right, so properties of money. And this is what I think took me the most time to wrap my head around. But it is so extremely important because once you understand what the properties of money are, then you start realizing that whatever commodity in the world we have, be it physical or digital, that's irrelevant. Whatever money we have or the commodity we have that performs best on these properties automatically becomes money of the world. And what's important is that, you know, gold doesn't have its current value. It didn't have that value for 3,000 years because that was the industrial use or jewelry use, anything. No, whatever property is best, or commodity that is best on the property of money, and that becomes money and act as the money we use as storing value, where it's important that it's fairly hard capped. If it has, you know, if it's platinum that maybe has a 50% increase because it's easily accessible, even though it's a great metal. I don't know exactly how high the inflation rate is, but I know it's high. You know, if it is easily available and therefore have a high circulation inflation, then it can't be used as money, because as soon as it has a little bit of a value, you know, too much is coming out of the ground or from wherever. You need something that is scarce. But you know, whatever commodity that wins and becomes money of the world because it's best on those properties that I'm about to go through, gets a monetary value, and therefore that commodity increases in value from that, you know, industrial use or whatever use it may have, to having the monetary premium because it acts best as the one thing we need in the economy, which is money. We clearly can't do barter. You can't pay for a haircut with a half a chicken or a chicken leg or something. You kill the chicken. So we need money. That's obvious. I don't think there's any need to go further into that. Yeah, so let's go back to the presentation. First of all right, so the white text here defines what properties of money are or has been throughout time. Orange, color of Bitcoin, is the answer for Bitcoin on these properties. These are the properties that commodities have competed on throughout the history of mankind. Once we left being hunters gatherers, had, you know, more interaction, had agriculture, could create villages, cities, and start specialization beyond just gathering, you know, berries to eat or killing animals to eat them or taking their fur. You know, we needed money once we had that specialization, which agriculture allowed for, because now we could store food. We could have cities where we had, you know, food stored for the whole year. And all right, so for something to become you know, the most important thing maybe as the first property of money is that the commodity has to be scarce. If it is not scarce, it will not have the ability to become money of the world, because you know, you can have the most valuable commodity in the world for survival, but if it's unlimited, it's absolutely free. Best example on that is oxygen. If we don't have oxygen, we'll all be dead in 5 minutes or so. And yet oxygen is free. And why is that? That's because it's unlimited. And let me just drop something on Ethereum here. In my opinion, right now, if you go to websites and see what the outstanding supply of Ethereum is, it turns out Pierre Rochard, who's an OG in the space, I think we can easily say, find out last year when he started researching that it is based, Ethereum's official supply is based on a lot of assumptions. Nobody actually knows the outstanding amount. And what's also very important with Ethereum is that the monetary supply is not hard capped. It's actually just going to keep inflating, and it can be changed, the monetary supply, and that's a huge problem in terms of believing that it will one day, you know, continue to have value. That's just a side note. I don't want to spend my time here talking about these alternatives to Bitcoin, which I believe are all projects created to enrich the founders because they gave often themselves a huge portion of the supply initially, and then they told people this is phenomenal, and then they're selling their Ethereum, whatever, that had a 70% pre-mine in order for them to take your Bitcoin that you bought to buy Ethereum, for instance, and enrich themselves in Bitcoin. Make no mistake. That is my opinion, of course. You're free to think what you believe in. Furthermore, so now is four, after being scarce, then there's these four properties of money that are extremely important. And that is what they compete on, you could say. The commodity needs to be portable, it needs to be divisible, and it needs to be durable, means it'll last and not like deteriorate with time, where gold, for instance, have a problem because when you have to pay small amounts of gold, you're doing gold dust, and gold dust can be taken away with the wind. Then furthermore, money ideally needs to be fungible, which means one unit is the same as the other. This is what allows for privacy. This is what allows for a oppressive or tyrannic government, or just a big state surveillance government that uses terrorism to legitimize surveillance of their citizens and take away privacy. Therefore, a fungible money, or fungible commodity, a privacy allowing money will have better performance, and therefore stand a better chance in becoming money of the world. Now, let's see how Bitcoin is performing on these four. We have several things in the world that are scarce. Nothing is as scarce as Bitcoin because it's actually 100% capped. Gold has about 1.8% new inflation every year. That let's say for every 100 ton of gold above ground, 1.8 comes out of the ground because it is valuable. So miners mine for more gold. It's the first time ever we've had an asset that is 100% hard capped. So it's the soundest, hardest money the world has ever seen. And then you could say, oh yeah, but what about, let's say, for instance, Litecoin that has 80 million units? Well, the thing is, Litecoin, I can see my connection is not very good. How is, let's see, can you guys in the chat let me know if you can actually, see this properly and hear me? Anyways, I'll continue and I'll see what you guys say in the chat. Hope we're still going. Litecoin or others that also claim to have a hard cap. The problem is they go into a category of, cryptocurrencies. That's being nice, and they all right. Thanks for the feedback, guys. They all are in the same category of alternative cryptocurrencies, and that means that category as such is unlimited because there's 9,000 coins now. Bitcoin is a different thing. It's a different animal, because of the stability in the programming, because the immense hashing rate that is from the miners that is securing the network against hacks, etc. And trust me, if it was possible to hack it or put computer power behind it to try and ruin the blockchain, governments would have done that many years ago. But the computing power today is so strong that there's nothing anyone can do, and it's just too late. And the economic incentive because of Bitcoin's value just means that more and more mining power is coming on the network, essentially making more and more secure, even though now, all right, turn off the TV, drop. Thanks for that actually could be an important point. That should give me more bandwidth here. All right, so portability. There's nothing in this world as portable as Bitcoin. And, I rate different money commodities on these four. Well, of course, also on the scarcity, but Bitcoin can be instantly transferred at zero cost across the world. And then some people will say, yeah, but there's on-chain transactions, and the blockchain needs to confirm it. Yeah, if you do if you do big value amounts of Bitcoin, sure, you make the transfer and then you wait until that transaction is confirmed. Then you wait for a few more confirmations, and then it's a done deal and irreversible. If we're talking day-to-day amount of money, like what you have in your wallet, you can use the Lightning Network, which is built as a second layer on top of Bitcoin. And that is instant. It is pretty much free to use, and therefore it's just perfect in that sense. And the few purchases we have of large value, say buy a car, buy a house, something like that, I'm sure we can sit around and wait for 30-40 minutes for that to be fully confirmed. There is no better alternative. The Bitcoin is the best alternative. Also, in terms of portability, let's say you live in an oppressive regime that that you want to leave. You want to take your money with you and your family. If you use gold, the metal detector will go off and they will take your gold. If you use dollar bills, then those can be found as well and taken. This happens every month around the world. Somewhere, someone gets their gold taken, someone gets their fiat currency taken. It's just possible to find it, and that's the problem. But with Bitcoin, you can memorize your some words put in connection with each other and walk through customs with $100 million in the back of your mind, in your memory, and no one can see it, no one can take it from you. And I know you think, all right, what if I forget these 12 words or 24 words? Well, you can still leave a copy of it somewhere safe in the country you're leaving, and if you should forget some of it, you can go back and once again try and do a better job of using your memory. So there is, in my opinion, Bitcoin is infinite portable. It has maximum portability, which means nothing outperforms Bitcoin on portability. In terms of divisibility, means how small can you make the units in case you just want to buy a piece of chocolate or a beer or whatever. Then Bitcoin is indefinitely divisible. It is infinitely divisible. The reason is that there's 100 million Satoshis on each Bitcoin. And after that, once they have enough value, which, many of us believe that they will have within 4 or 5 years, then you can further subdivide the Satoshis. This is what I've heard from the technical guys that program on Bitcoin Core. And therefore, I happen to trust these guys who are some of the smartest in the world. And they would have no financial incentive to lie about that. So again, second, scarcity, infinite maximum scarcity. Portability, infinite maximum portability. Divisibility, infinite maximal divisibility. And when you compete with other commodities about performance on these properties to be the best money commodity, to win as money of the world, having infinite maximum value when others don't just means you'll win. It's that simple, and then when it comes to durability, also Bitcoin has infinite maximum durability. Nothing is as durable, or nothing is more durable than Bitcoin. And if you want to compare with another cryptocurrency that runs based on a couple of Amazon web servers or something, that's the nodes of their network, and Bitcoin has the hashing power that it has on a decentralized, global, distributed mining network that secures Bitcoin against hacks. Then it just doesn't matter if they're equally divisible or equally durable, because Bitcoin already is a completely different beast, an animal that is just so much better. So as long as you make sure that you do your let's say Bitcoin hygiene, where you have a backup if you are doing self-custody, and then it is 100% infinite durable. All right, fungibility is the only property of these 5 where Bitcoin, you could say, have a challenge. Now, you can create for privacy today if you know how. So the problem is you can create that 100% privacy, but it is not for the average person to get that privacy. And when it's not for the average person, then we can't claim it has 100% privacy Bitcoin. However, Lightning Network helps. Potentially built-in Tor in your browser or in the application, the app, the wallet, whatever you use. That clearly helps. VPN. Again, these are some things that you need to make a choice about. But Taproot and Schnorr, which are technologies that are being implemented in Bitcoin, that I don't have the technical knowledge to understand this in depth at all. But these are things that are helping Bitcoin to also, get close to reaching that maximum level of privacy and fungibility. And then you have Bitcoin on the 5 properties of money that decides which commodity in the world, be it digital or be it physical, doesn't matter. If it's digital can also be a commodity, especially, sure, if it's a picture and you digitally and you can copy and paste it, then maybe you can't call it a commodity. But Bitcoin is, thanks to the genius of Satoshi Nakamoto and the people that came before him that developed the different parts of technology that allowed for blockchain. We have something digital for the first time ever, launched early January 2009, that cannot be copied. Something digital that you cannot copy paste. That's the genius end result of the Bitcoin blockchain. Yeah, on those 5 properties of money, Bitcoin has maximum infinite possible value on 4 of them. The last one, I mean, we're almost there. If you know what you're doing, we're almost there. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll be there when these technologies are implemented soon. And that's all the market needs to know that we'll get there. And then when you can't have a better money, and yet, yes, you can launch another blockchain, which 9,000 projects have done. And but they're not, already Bitcoin has a network effect, and that is not to be neglected. And also Bitcoin has the hashing power that no government in the world can attack, even if they all went together, bought that, service from Amazon and Google and Facebook and Netflix. So they're not the same. They may be able to compete on some of the properties, but since Bitcoin already has an advantage, and because people want to use the best money, and it is better when it's more secure against, external hacks, then there's just, Bitcoin already won. What we're watching now in terms of price and the price of Bitcoin going up is we're watching the rest of the world, apart from us holding Bitcoin, realizing that Bitcoin already won. Fighting Bitcoin to take over as money of the world now is like fighting the gravity of a black hole. We may not be swallowed in by the black hole yet, but that is the direction, and we're too close to the black hole. There is no reversing it at this stage. So it's a done deal, and we're watching it play out. Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy is saying the same thing, or he's saying that Bitcoin already won. So that's phenomenal, obviously. Furthermore, because Bitcoin is digital and decentralized, it has allowed for 2 new properties that we've never seen in money before. And this is very, very important, really valuable traits of money that, are normal, hardworking, good citizen deserves and wants in their money. And those 2 properties are unconfiscatability, which means no one can take your money away from you. That is extremely important. Gold buried in your backyard can be found by metal detectors, or if you want to pay a vendor in China that's producing goods for you, which a lot of companies have in today's society, you can't pay them in gold instantly. So, Bitcoin is unconfiscatable. First time ever we've seen that. Also, Bitcoin is permissionless value transfer, which means you don't need anyone's permission to send your money to whomever you want. And being free of bank censorship, bank delay, government censorship is something that is good for the money. And I would say it's good for human rights, it's good for humanity. And then you can say, oh, but the government fights crime. Well, government, unfortunately, often is involved in crime and corruption, etc. Yeah, I think it's important. That's a standpoint of mine, that government, if it's there at all, should be for the people. But what we're seeing with all organizations across the world, all organizations quickly end up being there for themselves and wanting to ensure their own survival and prosperity. Government is no different. Government is government for government today. Government is not government for the people. So yeah, I do like that you can use your money and send it to whomever you want. And if the government wants peace in this world, maybe it should be less aggressive around the world. All right, next slide. History has proven. So this is my my point in terms of once you have a commodity that has the best properties for becoming money of the world, whatever commodity has those best properties becomes the money of the world, wins, you know, the place as money of the world. You can't fight it. It happens. It has happened not many times, but every single time. And being chosen as money of the world is what gives money its value. Again, this is important to stress that gold didn't have its value for thousands of years because you could use it for cufflinks or you could use it in jewelry. We wouldn't have used it in jewelry if it wasn't because it had value. That's important. So if you look at the economy in general, everywhere, every half of a transaction is money. So it kind of makes up half an entire economy. It doesn't even matter what the political system is. At the end of the day, money is half of all transactions. And if you have, you know, whatever commodity happens to be best as money of the world grows into that value. So you have the commodity with whatever, you know, industrial usage value, but the money of the world has this much value, then that monetary premium is added on top of it. All right, history of money. So before, you know, originally the world bartered, and that's as I touched upon in the beginning. It was not until we started to have agriculture that we could store food, we could store, and techniques for that villages sprung up, and that it started to make sense to do specialization. You know, before we were all hunting for food, gathering berries, whatever, hunters and gatherers. But once we didn't all need to do that, we could start to specialize in society, and that's when you needed money. So the evidence we have is that 1800 BC, rare seashells were used, especially in China, as money. That was the best commodity at the time, and therefore that won as money of those regions. Then 700 BC, gold for the first time was circulated as money of the world in a kingdom called Lydia back in the days in what is in today Western Turkey. And so that was the first time, you know, gold was valuable before that. Nick Szabo has described how you know, money starts as something, you know, valuable and collectible, and then eventually it works its way in to become money if it performs good on these properties of money. You know, like, is it durable? Is it divisible? Is it fungible? Is it portable? Is it scarce? It would never be a collectible anyway if it wasn't scarce. Nobody wants to collect something that we have everything of. No one's collecting oxygen, even though it's very, very useful for us, simply because there is unlimited, well, more than enough of it than what we need. So gold became money that spread throughout the world. Of course, it took longer time than Bitcoin is taking over as money of the world, because things, information, news, people, everything traveled slower back then. Now, in 2009, Bitcoin was launched. And yes, of course, it didn't have a lot of value back then because it needed to, improve on its security. The protocol was developed, new technologies, but also very important, it's a matter of word of mouth. We weren't all there early January 2009. If we had been and we have understood it, Bitcoin would have taken over as money of the world very fast, but we weren't. It has to travel from person that learns about Bitcoin and gets to understand it, not only the fact that it goes up in fiat currency price, but start to really understand and spread that from person to person, which is what I'm trying to do here with this video. Then you get more people to realize that, wait, that's what money is. Bitcoin is actually the best money we've ever seen. Doesn't matter if it's not used today. If it is the best money we've ever seen, it will take over as money of the world. It's already won. It's a matter of just playing out. And that's why I think it's okay to look at the price, because price is the benchmark for how far we've come in the disruption of money. And yes, nothing that goes up and disrupts something as important as money that goes up so fast goes up in a straight line. Okay. But there's a 4-year cycle. There's 210,000 blocks in Bitcoin, and then the supply is cut in half. Every 210,000 block, which is approximately every 4 years, the fresh supply is cut in half, and otherwise we couldn't have it hard capped at 21 million. And today we have almost 19 million in circulation. So there's not a lot left, and that is spread out over the next approximately 120 years. All right, next slide. My point was, so, when you see how does the price of Bitcoin move? So when you see the fact that Bitcoin went up from, it went up to like 42,000 in January, then it dropped to 29,000. And then people get nervous and think that, oh, wait, maybe it's not going to be money of the world. If you educate yourself on what money is, and then understand, all right, but that's why it will take over as money of the world, then you understand that those corrections, that's the market is swinging a little bit in supply and demand. If there's a little bit more supply, there's a correction in the price. But if you look at this 210,000 blocks between where the fresh supply is cutting half. So if you look at this 4-year cycle, there has never been a time in Bitcoin where, if go back 4 years and see where were we at this same point in the cycle 4 years ago, there's never been a point where you were not up more than 800%. So you have pensions maybe that you invest in, you'll leave them alone for 40 years, and you don't get nervous because there's some fluctuations in the market. Try and treat Bitcoin the same way, where you don't get nervous because 2 weeks later it may be lower than what you bought it. Understand that there's a 4-year cycle that gives you historically above 800% in return. Have a little bit patience and understand that disruption doesn't happen in a nice, cute, straight line. That would be my take on that. So Bitcoin moves in I would say there's 3 terms: short term, medium term, long term. And I think that day trading is useless when it comes to Bitcoin, because when you have a 4-year cycle, that overrules anything we see with other equities where you don't have a 4-year cycle. Then I think technical analysis probably is highly useful and valuable. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know about it, I'm not an expert in it, but when we are in a bull run as we are now, and the average price of Bitcoin goes up by, say, 0.5% on average per day, then what knowledge do you have that means that you can sit outside the market and on a daily basis lose out half a percentage of of um, of price growth in order to buy it back cheaper. Like, why do you think it's going to be cheaper? I've seen it so many times. People who day trade Bitcoin, they lose it. I think what is the smarter way to do is look at the medium term where there's a clear 4-year cycle. That is my strategy on eToro, where I will be taking profits when I deem that we are near the bull run top, which I believe will happen sometime in the second half of this year. However, originally, I told people here a year ago, before COVID or around that time, that I would, try and sell everything to buy back everything, near a potential bear market bottom, because I believe that would give the best performance, and I want to get the best performance for, of course, not only myself, but also the people that copy me, from whom I feel quite responsible. However, as I have said several other times, here we have, hey guys, thanks for participating in the chat. I'll pay more attention to it later. Here we have Pablo.Hodl, my co-host on Toxic Caviar, who have become one of my best friends. Go find him on Twitter, search for Pablo.Hodl, you'll find him. Great guy. As I was saying, see, this is what happens when I start. So the medium term, that I feel quite comfortable with. The medium term, I feel, I think that's predictable. Not exactly, but to an extent where it's possible to make money. Yeah, now I remember what the point I was trying to make. So originally I said I would try and sell everything and rebuy it back to maximize, what I'm trying to do on eToro is to increase the amount of Bitcoin that I have and to increase the amount of Bitcoin that my copiers have. However, the picture has changed dramatically with COVID, stimulus, destruction of fiat currency. So this may be the last cycle where we see Bitcoin take over as money of the world. And I don't want to leave the people who are entrusting me with their dollars and copying me, leave them in a situation where they don't have Bitcoin. So I will not be trying to time that with more than somewhere between a couple of percent and maybe maximum 20%, because I want the worst case scenario for my copiers be that at least they still have, say, minimum 80% of their Bitcoin if it shoots to 20 million in this cycle. I think all of us will be just fine if we have 80% or 90% or 95% of the Bitcoin that we have on eToro or elsewhere, if it shoots to $20 million. And I'll get to that. I know I'm taking a lot of time here. So long term, I feel that is the easiest thing, in my opinion, to predict. Again, of course, there's no guarantee. I can be wrong. I'm personally just very, very convinced that I'm right, I must say. And that is, looking at the properties of money and this history of money that we looked at before, it's a given already, in my opinion, that Bitcoin will take over. So the easiest thing for me, in my opinion, to predict, and of course, we can argue about the target, is that Bitcoin will be worth $20 million. That I'm much more certain about than what the prices of Bitcoin is going to be Thursday next week. That I have no clue about. Anything can happen. We can get good news, bad news. However, the long term, there is a line and it's going to infinity. All right, back to the presentation. And Bitcoin long term is targeting, global money and store of value market, where today store of a value is, stocks and real estate is acting as a store of value, and stocks and real estate, because fiat currency is being diluted. But that will be taken over by Bitcoin because it is a better, more scarce and more liquid store of value. So that whole store value market of Bitcoin, of real estate and stocks that today probably is 75% of the total global of 400 trillion. So that's worth 300 trillion. Plus minus, who cares? But that's 300 trillion of the market cap that I'm expecting, and that's $15 million per Bitcoin. And I'm so sorry if it turns out to be only 12, but I'm pretty sure that it'll be at least the 15. We'll see. All right, so there's a 4-year Bitcoin halving price cycle. Every 4 years, the supply is cut in half. I've spoken about that. Supply and demand drives the price of everything, and continuous supply drying out is pushing the price of Bitcoin higher. All right, next slide. So Plan B is a Dutch quant mathematician that works with institutional investments, and he has found this. It is disputed. I happen to believe in it. This relationship between the stock to flow of Bitcoin and the price, especially when compared towards other assets. Now, stock to flow basically means how much supply is above ground compared to 1 year's production. So if gold is, if we mine 1 ton of gold every year, and there's 50 ton above ground, then current supply is 50 times more. So the stock to flow is 50. The stock 50 a ton compared to the flow of 1 ton, is 50 times bigger. Now, if we had 20 ton of gold above ground and we still mined 1 ton of gold every year, then that stock to flow would be 20. So that's just establishing that. Essentially, it's the same as the inverse inflation rate. You don't need to understand it, but that's just a comment on that. All right. So this relationship that this Dutch quant mathematician, Plan B, he calls himself. He's currently anonymous. Whoops, let me get the presentation full screen. He has found this relationship about, between the stock to flow and the market cap of Bitcoin. And as Bitcoin was new, the market cap was the stock to flow was very, very low. We had no stock above ground. So the flow, the 50 Bitcoin that was minted every 10 minutes on average was, of course, very high when Bitcoin was young. Actually, every 10 minutes, it goes a little bit down because the stock above ground goes up with every block that is found on average every 10 minutes. So what we're seeing is that here we go. As the stock to flow, which is on the bottom, has increased, this is historic data. As the stock to flow has increased, Bitcoin historically has very nicely followed a relationship where the market cap goes up. And if this is to continue historically, that means that eventually Bitcoin, yes, will take over as money of the world, and yes, therefore also will become extremely valuable because it's no longer measured in dollars. That will go away, in my opinion. It will be, as the only money of the world, it means you're no longer buying Bitcoin. No one will sell you their Bitcoin for any other type of currency. That's going to be worthless. But it's going to be what we're getting as salary. It's going to be what we need to use for buying groceries and pay our bills. It's what, if you have a high Bitcoin will be what you receive as payment. Now, if we look at hello, Greg Sash, and welcome, Sean Stack, and thanks for hanging out, guys. So if we look at the price of Bitcoin, so the price of 1 Bitcoin throughout time, or throughout the history of Bitcoin, starting back when we had the first price history, which I believe started around 2010, then what I want to show with this graph, again, is from Plan B, is that the color changes as we get closer to the next halving, where the next drop in supply happens. So when it is red, the graph, it means there's the longest time to the next halving. So when it goes from blue, where there's the next halving is very close, and it goes to red, that's when we have the halving. So when it starts being red, we just had the halving, we just had the drop in supply, and now that lack of, whether you believe in Plan B's model or not, it's undisputed that when the supply is cut in half, and since price is determined by supply and demand, the price must go up. So you can see every time that the graph turns red, the price starts running up. What we've seen in 2013 November and in December, in December 2017, is that eventually these bull runs are so steep that you have a FOMO blow off top, as I call it, and that blow off top basically means that supply in the market from people who are holding Bitcoin that they bought way cheaper overmans the demand from new buyers in the market. And I must say that I do expect that at some time this year, second half, we will have a blow off top. I don't think that there'll be a correction down to the current level. And I don't think we'll have ever again a bear market anywhere near the length of what we've seen before. I do believe there'll be a blow off top. We'll have some what I call slaps in the face, hard corrections that will scare people. We may see 40% down. We may see 50% down. In January, we saw 31. I don't think it'll be less when we have an actual blow off top. So let's see. The important thing is not to expect a 12 months bear market. For many reasons, I'm convinced that there's no way that's going to happen. I'm confident that we may have either no bear market, just a correction. We'll be back up after 2, 3, 4 weeks at the previous all-time high at the blow off top, or we'll have a short bear market. I don't see it any other way. What we have here again to highlight, every time that we've had a blow off, a halving, then price starts going up again. I mean, that's undisputed. As supply of something drops, price goes up, unless there's violent negative directions in demand, and we don't see that to this extent in Bitcoin on the longer fundamental basis. So this graph, these lines on the graph shows what happens to the price of Bitcoin after we had a halving. So the light blue is at the first halving that happened back in late 2012, I believe it was. Then the price starts moving up. It went up so steep that there actually was a blow off top back in April 13. But then it wasn't the end of the bull market. The price again starts to pick up steam and went absolutely bonkers all the way up to $1,100, and it had started at I think it had started at I don't know, around $10 or something. At least the value growth was really high. The dark blue line is again on the same index, how the price of Bitcoin developed after the second halving, which had happened in summer of 16. That bull run took a little bit longer time, and it was less steep. I believe that's because the inflation rate was not dropping as fast as it did in the beginning. In the beginning, if you go and look at the development in stock to flow and inflation rate, it was decreasing a lot faster, and that to me is the clear answer for that. However, so why now with this red line, which is the third halving, the bull run that we are in currently, why is that not then? Because again, the inflation rate is dropping slower. It's still dropping fast. It's being cut in half, and then some actually every 4 years, because every single block in between, we do get more stock as well. So it's not just inflation rate is cut in half every 4 years. It's a little bit more in that 4-year period. and stock to flow in the first epoch, as you call, this period with the same mining reward, which was 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. That basically went from a stock to flow of 0 to 8. So it went up, by a factor infinity. Then you could say, let's use 1 as a beginning, which is not fair. It started, way below 1 or 0, but no, way below 1 at 0.00 something. The first 10 minutes, the first block. But nevertheless, it went up, by more than 8. In the second epoch, the stock to flow, which is inflation rate, is 100 divided by stock to flow. You don't need to necessarily understand that. I'm just saying it as a side note. Stock to flow went from 8 to 24. So in the second epoch, Bitcoin's stock to flow increased by a factor 3. In the last epoch that ended by the halving last year, the 11th of May, Bitcoin's stock to flow went up by a factor 2.33 because it went from 24 to 56. I hope I remember that correct. I'm pretty sure, and that's a factor 2.33. That I'm sure about. So that is my explanation for why the dark blue was longer and less steep than the first one. So, and then the question of course becomes, but then why is the red line now? That kind of invalidates my theory about that. But I claim here that something new has happened, where before maybe they were, destroying the currency with 10% or 5% or whatever they used of quantitative easing before COVID. COVID absolutely has changed the game and the speed of destruction of fiat currency. So it happens faster now. And whether those things are right or not, I'm convinced of it. But nevertheless, and again, whether I'm right or not, this bull run, which is the red line, this graph, Plan B tweets it out, I believe, about the middle of the month. So this one is from mid-February. It'll be interesting to follow it, later this March. I may do an update. At least I'll post it on eToro, where I'll show the URL for that. My trader name on eToro is @Anders_, exactly the same as on Twitter. That's how you can find me. But because of COVID destruction or COVID stimulus destruction of fiat currency, price of Bitcoin just moves up faster. And one of those things is the fact that more people faster are becoming aware that we actually have a true problem with fiat currency. Before, it was, they were slowly boiling the frog in the water, and it didn't realize that, the water was slowly getting warmer. But now they increased it, fast towards boiling temperature. And then a lot of people now realizing that fiat currency have a huge problem and cannot store value. And that's the thing that made Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, and I believe he has about 70% ownership. So he has, he can make decisions. He doesn't move as slow as maybe Amazon, Microsoft, or Apple, or these other companies have to do, because there's so many stakeholders to, and there's not that one person that has that much decisive say. It made Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy the first listed company in United States to throw all their dollars, originally 425 million, into Bitcoin. All of what they had on the balance sheet, he said, we can't store value. We can't have $425 million sitting on our balance sheet and just lose value, like melt like an ice cube in the sun, as he was saying. So he converted it to what he believed was the best store value. Previously, he considered, should we buy real estate? No, it's not as liquid as Bitcoin. Doesn't trade 24/7. It's a longer exit time. It means, it's illiquid. And what if you buy it in an area where the price doesn't go up? It's just not a practical store of value. The same with stocks. You need to know which companies to invest in. and again, it's just not, it's more risky than, in my opinion, than buying Bitcoin, which is a super liquid asset that is traded 24/7 every single minute of the day, around the clock, the entire year. It is traded, so it's just much better as money. So no, let me just go back to this one and highlight it. So we are not right now moving on the red line. If we go above the dark blue, we're very close to 300,000. That's just 40% above the dark blue. But I think we have good reasons to expect that we can go to at least 300,000. And I know I have been saying that I expect that 300,000 latest Q1 next year, so 12 months from now, give or take. Honestly, looking at the bull run, the thing with bull runs is it doesn't matter, Bitcoin, other assets, number go up technology, as we called it jokingly on Bitcoin Twitter, is, as the price of Bitcoin goes up, it draws in more people. That means the curve gets a little bit steeper. That little bit steeper curve draws in people even faster. So all asset curves, a bull run is not a straight line, even on a logarithmic chart, which means percentage growth. Bull runs get steeper and steeper. And that's why I think that $300,000 is not going to come Q1 next year. I think right now, I'm not saying it's 100% we will see it in Q3. There's no guarantees, obviously, in investing on Bitcoin or anything. The only certainties in life is death and taxes, as someone famously said. I don't know who to give the credit for, but those are the only two things with certainty. Bitcoin is not as certain, as convinced as I am. I believe it's 100% probability that it will succeed. But so $300,000 in Q3, I think it has a above 50% chance of happening. Again, do not invest, based on that. And, just use what I say in this presentation as input. I hope that you find it useful in understanding money, and then understanding Bitcoin and why that is money, and then the rest of this train of thought. So hopefully this presentation could be a useful tool for you to share with people that you want to introduce to the train of thought of Bitcoin. If not to go all in, but maybe to at least, if you don't own some Bitcoin, that means you are short that Bitcoin. It means that you have an expectation that Bitcoin will crash and go to zero, basically, because right now Bitcoin has a certain amount of assets around the world. If you are not sure, at least you should have that same percentage of Bitcoin just in case. And if you don't have Bitcoin, you are shorting the best performing asset in the world the last 12 years and 2 months, that despite critics constantly attacking it, it keeps fundamentally outperforming everything else. And for the reasons I've gone through earlier in this presentation, it's logic. It's not a tulip bubble. It's not a bubble. There is fundamental value because Bitcoin is the best money, and therefore will take the monetary premium away from what is used as money today. So yeah, let me go on to the next slide. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so in my opinion, yes, the future appears bright, not only for Bitcoin, but for humanity. I made a post about that also last night on eToro. Sometimes I want to do a post and say like a few sentences, but it always ends out with me getting carried away and doing like 1,500 characters or something. Anyways, so my hypothesis for the medium term, I'm not even going to discuss the short term because nobody knows and it's irrelevant. If you need the money 3 weeks from now, don't buy Bitcoin. But you probably would not regret if you decided not to be short the best asset in the world the last 12 years. All right. So I still have that target, $300,000 latest Q1 next year. But I think, Q3, or Q4 this year is on the table. I think the halving pattern drives the medium term of the price. Need another sip of the drink here to clear my throat. All right. So the institutional runaway or runway that is happening now is especially, again, due to the COVID dilution of fiat currency, that, you know, the adoption on an institutional smart money, big money level, which is a lot more money than the retail that was driving Bitcoin in 2017 and 16 and previously. It's very big money coming in now, and that's where we can expect a lot to happen. That's why I expect to see that 300,000 this year in the second half. And again, I would absolutely strongly advise against selling majority of your Bitcoin, hoping that it goes down, because there's a real risk, and I mean that very positively, that Bitcoin continues above 500,000 later. Yeah, that's quite risky. But point is, companies like MicroStrategy is coming in and starting converting all their dollars to Bitcoin. Furthermore, MicroStrategy later started basically a public attack on the dollar, shorting the dollar by taking on convertible bond debt. Early December, late November, they sold $650 million worth of dollar debt, convertible bonds. They get that $650 million into the company treasury and went straight out and bought Bitcoin dollar for dollar. Every single cent of that went into Bitcoin. And then as the price rose of Bitcoin throughout December and into January, then and then into February. And then in February, I can't remember the exact time, but once again, because the debt in the company had stayed the same, but the equity of the company that holds a lot of Bitcoin, so the stock price goes up as the price of Bitcoin goes up. It's kind of an alternative Bitcoin investment. As that stock price goes up together with the price of Bitcoin, all of a sudden, the percentage of the equity in the company, or the value of the company that is debt, has decreased. So again, they could do another sale of convertible bonds, this time $1.05 billion, of which, of course, there are some fees that they pay to the people doing this for them. But I believe it was about $1.03 billion that will be dollar for dollar into Bitcoin. I can see Taproot. You have a question here. If I'll be sharing your slides show somewhere for download, I'll try and work that out somehow. I just want to do it some way that I don't know if maybe I'll make it a PDF or something, or a version where it can't be amended. I think that'll be I'll try and work on that. People actually have been asking me for that since the first presentation in October. Just didn't get around to it. I'm busy doing Toxic Caviar with my mate Pablo, who's also hanging out in the chat. Say hi to him, guys. He's a good man. And Taproot, you've been hanging out as well, and many other good people in the chat that I know from Toxic Caviar. Anyways, back to the presentation. Sorry, I'm trying to focus on that instead of the chat. I'll take all the questions afterwards, not a problem. So, I would say it's looking the environment that we have with this fiat currency destruction at a very rapid pace looks extremely bullish for Bitcoin. Now, as I said, there's the short term, the medium term, and the long term. Short term, I think no need to look at that. It's impossible to predict anyway. Medium term, as I say, there is this cycle. Historically, there's been this cycle, and I do believe that there'll be some element of that. I believe there will be a blow off top at some stage, and we will get a slap in the face of at least 40%. And if we do, I win a steak dinner from Puppy that you find in the chat. And I'm pretty sure I got that steak dinner nailed down. So I want some serious good steak. Then looking at the long term, I find honestly to be the easiest and most predictable, because it's natural law already, in my opinion, that Bitcoin will take over as money of the world. There's just no stopping it. Also, even though it doesn't go up in a straight line, nothing goes up in a straight line. All right, so what is the target that I have, or how do I get to this 20 million? Well, before COVID stimulus starting March last year, global monetary supply was around $100 trillion. Gold is sitting around 10 trillion. But they have printed so much since then, probably 20, 30, 40% more. Honestly, I'm losing count of how much dirty fiat currency there's in the world. And I also, find it to be more and more irrelevant, because what matters is the direction, and the direction is straight to the garbage bin for the dollar, in my opinion, and the rest. I'm not having a specific problem with US money. I have, all currency. I have a problem with all currency around the world. But that is something I see Bitcoin easily, that will happen. Bitcoin takes over that 100+ trillion. And we have global real estate. The value of that is $290 trillion. So let's say roughly 300. It probably went up since I first did this presentation in October, because they're diluting the currency. And then there's stocks at 90 trillion. So if you add those two together, and the development since October last year, when I put this together, so some of the things that got updated, not all of it, that 400 trillion of global real estate and global stock, that I believe to a very large extent is acting as a store of value, because people don't want to hold fiat currency, because that cannot secure their future. I know we've come to think that we need to invest in stock and homes to secure a financial future. It's not supposed to be like that. It's not the natural way of things. That's only because they're killing the currency. Money is something that historically with gold is where we can store our labor. We don't need to find alternative stores of assets. So my point is, of that 400 trillion, of those two things, they are artificially high, because people actually use them for store value where it's not really necessary. When a liquid money, like Michael Saylor said, it's better storing value than real estate and stocks. Also, the interest rate artificially in most parts of the world is 0% from the Federal Reserve. That artificially low interest rate means that stocks, people are willing to pay more for stocks, because you can't get a return in your bank account. On Bitcoin, there's a free market interest rate around 20%, and if you deposit your Bitcoin, there are different places you can do that. You can get like 6%. I'm not recommending for that. I'm not recommending against it. I'm just saying that is what the free market determines of Bitcoin, because there's pros and cons for that. So you need to do your own research there, because that's an important financial decision, whether you want to have self-custody or if you're fine with that, lending it out. So when those mortgage rates for real estate are artificially low, because the Federal Reserve determines it to be so low, then real estate becomes more expensive. You know it when you see real mortgage loans goes down and the interest rate, the prices of houses and apartments are pushed up. So my point is, Bitcoin takes over as money of the world. There's no two ways about it. That's going to happen, in my opinion. When that happens, that market interest rate from the Federal Reserve of 0, which is artificial, will go towards this 20%. Who knows where it's going to end up? It's going to be a different world. 12%, 10, 8, 6, 20. I don't know. But what I do know is it's going to be very, very significant higher than 0%, which means mortgages will be above, that somewhere. So that means that we'll see an absolute slaughter on real estate, in my opinion, and an absolute slaughter of stocks. Now, they may go up in terms of dollar, but only as the dollar's very fast and even faster loses value. So real value will crash in these two asset classes, in my opinion. Stocks and real estate will be devastated, decimated. And that's one of the reasons I don't hold those assets today, because of the train of thought I've gone through here. You know, you could say diversification, but I just find it hard to diversify into something that I believe will fall maybe 80% in value. So yeah, that's why I'm, you know, I don't have many X, but the X I have, I do have it in the Bitcoin basket. This is, I think, a good opportunity. And honestly, a safe opportunity. Again, not financial advice. You know, I'm not claiming it's safe. I'm just saying, in my opinion, Bitcoin is a conservative, safe place to store my value. All right, back to the presentation. So my point is that out of real estate and stocks, Bitcoin will take $300 trillion of that as stored value. Already, fiat currency is a 100 trillion. So that gives me a market cap target of Bitcoin of $400 trillion worth of today's purchasing power. Now, bear in mind, as the fiat currencies will hyperinflate, of course, the actual price of Bitcoin will be way higher. The market cap in dollars of the future will be way higher. I'm talking about today's dollar value purchasing power. In my opinion, will be 400 trillion, which gives the price target for me, which is rational, it's logical. Each Bitcoin will be worth $20 million. Yeah, so apart from buying and holding at Bitcoin, I don't sell anything. Only, you know, I buy the dips, which actually gives me a little bit better performance than Bitcoin overall. But it's something you can only do when, you know, if you have dry powder, if you have some fiat cash left over after you paid your expenses, you know, that's what I do. And then I save that dry powder for when Bitcoin corrects a 20% or 30%, something like that. That's when I pile in what available funds I have, and that gives a good it gives a good return. You can also just buy, you know, fixed every day on a daily basis, and then, you know, that's another way of doing it. All right. Where did we get to? Let me take the next slide. So I've already touched on Ethereum early in the presentation, and I think it's you know, it's junk, and it won't sustain long-term value. All the arguments can be absolutely taken apart. Yet, you know, yeah, Ethereum is irrelevant as far as I think. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I spent enough time on it, kind of. But what I want to do say is that people are saying that Ethereum is back at all-time high, and it's actually higher than the all-time high. I don't even know where it is right now, but that happened, I think, in January or February. But just remember that when you say that Ethereum is at its all-time high, it's measured in dollars. Dollars is losing value fast. You know, having the same amount of dollar or a little bit more than it's in 2017 means that you have lost value. If you look at the price of Ethereum measured in what is my unit of account, which is Bitcoin, then you'll find that Ethereum back then was about 3 times more valuable than now. So it's an all-time high in USD, but it's about a third of the value that it had back at its high point. Ethereum is sliding in actual value, in real value. You can't use USD for measuring that. You can use Bitcoin. That's real value measurement, in my opinion. And also, it's important to, I think, understand that money is a winner takes all game. So it always has been. I've done a video on that as well. It's an 8-minute video. It's back sometime in autumn last year. It's still very valid. It's an update on a summary of Gresham's law. It's only an 8-minute video. If you want to find out why Bitcoin is money is a winner takes all game, then it's only 8 minutes there where I explain it. All right. So summary. I expect that we see 300,000 latest Q1 next year. It may happen as early as Q3. Anything before that would be a nice surprise. And then I believe that this plays out over this decade, and that Bitcoin will be worth $20 million in today's buying target. But there are so many factors that are extremely bullish for Bitcoin that we didn't have 12 months ago. And that is, again, as I said, COVID-19 has taken QE from a QE to QE and steroids. And therefore, company adoption of Bitcoin as store value is really increasing. It's going fast. Tesla invested 1.5 billion in January. I think it was early February they announced it. And even now, governments are also turning towards Bitcoin as a store value, at least now on a local level, where Miami's mayor has said that he wants to allocate funds on Miami's balance sheet to Bitcoin. Down below, I have a link in YouTube to a 21% discount on tickets to a Bitcoin conference that's going to be in Miami, June 4 and 5. I'm going. A lot of my friends from Bitcoin are going. It's going to be a blast. It's an amazing speaker lineup. I don't make anything on that link. There's no commission, but it's a 21% discount on general admission and on after party if you use the code Toxic21. But it's all explained down below. All right, let's see what else I got left. So what will we're at the end soon, but I think this is for the sake of humanity. I mean, if you're looking at Bitcoin in terms of you want to make a lot of money, purchasing power, that part of the presentation is done, and I feel it's a clear, logic, rational explanation for why, with very high probability, will reach $20 million per Bitcoin. What is left now is why Bitcoin will and sound money will be a huge benefit to humanity. There's not a lot left, can be summed up fairly quickly. But the future with Bitcoin as money, deflation will cause a world of abundance, and people watching Toxic Happy Hour know that again and again. I'm bringing up this book, The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth. We interviewed him early December. Phenomenal, great episode in my opinion. Puppy and I had a lot of fun. Jeff Booth had a lot of fun. It was really great talking to him. This guy is really smart, a successful entrepreneur and VC investor, and has done a lot of work with tech companies. And he knows that the natural order of things is that because we get better at producing things, goods and services, technology develops, economies of scale, things get cheaper by nature. And don't tell me that, oh, we're not going to buy things if we know they get cheaper in the future, because we already know that in certain categories. A mobile phone that can do what a mobile phone can do today will be 30% cheaper a couple of years from now. It's the same thing on a lot of product services. It's a lie told to us by governments that are funded by central bank, or they have access to some banks, which is anytime they want money, they can sell bonds to the central bank, and then they don't need to ask your permission through taxes to raise money for wars, but they basically have an unlimited bank account with the Federal Reserve. Which means that you pay for these expenditures through your savings losing value, through your currency being debased, and they have convinced you it's a good idea. Let's face it, and yeah, it's clear it's not. So prices of everything will be allowed to fall. Bitcoin is deflationary, so prices will fall. It's going to be a great thing. Your savings will automatically increase in value. And my point is that even minimum wage earners will be able to retire and in comfort and peace. I believe that a very, very large double-digit percentage of the world essentially will end up being financially independent after some period of investing your labor into the workforce and earning a salary and not spending everything. So and if we really allow the prices of goods and services to fall, and a lot of things are being automated, we will get very close to very cheap food, cheap clothing, cheaper housing. It will be, as Jeff Booth says, as he's saying on the front of his book, why deflation is the key to an abundant future. The world is about to change to a much better place, in my opinion. I'm very optimistic about the future of humanity. We're defunding the war machines, and instead of right now such a huge percent of the world, I see it even with people with high educations, how stressed they are about paying the bills, the mortgage, etc. That's all going to change, and all those resources today that are being misallocated due to this artificial low interest rate, those resources will go into where it's needed. They'll go into research and development in medicine and other areas where we will benefit health-wise. Stress will fall. I mean, honestly, I think 2030, the world is going to be a phenomenal place. All right. Disclaimer. Let's just take that up full screen. This is not investment advice. It's educational purposes only, yada, yada, yada. And you can lose what you invest. So just take this as input. And then knowing that, if you're even considering investing, go back in the video, pause it on that slide, read all of it, understand the risks, and that you are responsible for your own actions. I am not. I'm trying to help people by sharing the understanding of Bitcoin, but we are sovereign people. We should be, and we are responsible for our own decisions. You reap the benefits, you run the risks. All right, thank you very much for your attention, guys. I want to pay attention now to the chat, ongoing posts, which are, opinions, analysis, etc. I do post that on eToro mostly, and you can find me on eToro, eToro.com/people/Anders_. Also, if you're on the platform, you can search on @Anders_, which is the same I use on Twitter. I also post my ideas on Twitter. But because it's only text and it's small, it's more concentrated doses of thinking, as well as a lot of just joking around with my my good buddies there. All right, let me run through the chat and see. So the presentation is over now. I'll just see if there's some questions that I feel will be useful here. All right. Let's see, John M, Taproot, UK Bitcoin Meister, Rock Abe, John M again. Thank you all for participating. So, Mark Tier, let's see, what are you saying? Why does XRP have hardcore advocates? Because they're brainwashed, and because they are holding that money, and because they're believing to the, press releases about, oh, we're working with this, oh, we have now an association with a bank somewhere. Where is it being used? It's not being used. It's a joke. But not everyone are able to see a scam when it's in front of them. Some buy the lies. They hear the buzzwords, they get excited, and they are, all financial decisions are driven by greed or fear. And if they get greedy and someone is shilling XRP and saying it's going to go up and be worth as much as Bitcoin, some people buy it because they have that. John M says it very nicely here. That is my opinion as well. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, what is funds allocated AUM? So that's the total amount of dollars on eToro US where people have copied me. So they've copied me with $10,000, one person. Say if I sell 20%, at what I believe is the halving cycle top, then 20% of your 10,000 is also sold. And when I buy back, you buy back as well. And I'm doing that to increase the amount of Bitcoin that I and my copyists have in eToro. That is the challenge, to try and pull that off. There's no guarantees. So that's what it means. Right now, that is $10.8 million. All right. Thank you for being patient here, and I'm answering questions from early on. I don't think there's that many, so hopefully you guys are fine with that. Fiat money is a derivative of gold. It used to be until 1933. You used to be able to hand in your dollar note and get gold back until the government basically defaulted on its private citizenship in US and said, no, you cannot get the gold back anymore. We like it. We like the value it has. So now you can use just strictly paper. All right, what else do we have? All right. Drop is asking me, what is my take on BTC being a primitive kind of crypto compared to newer ones such as ADA? I think ADA is absolute utter garbage. This is marketing because, and they have money from marketing because they make money when they sell their ADA or whatever it's called, Cardano, to you. It's a joke. There's nothing there. I've done other videos. I did a video recently on why altcoins are shitcoins, and I know some people may have a problem that we swear, but you know what? We are fighting a regime of deep state and central banking and corrupt governments that are killing people through wars. So, and we're not killing anyone as Bitcoiners. So if you have, if anyone have a problem with me swearing because I'm excited and passionate about Bitcoin making the world a much better place with much less wars, it's nothing compared to the people dying from the fiat finance bombs. So yeah, Adder is an utter shitcoin like the rest of them. I made a video on it, why altcoins are shitcoins, and it's not too long ago. It's I go into depth with those, so you can check that out if you're interested. So don't double. This is published usually. Check 1212. So and reverse. What does it say? Reverse Merman has a question here. Do you think the average person around the world will be okay with the money being divided indefinitely? So if money is divided indefinitely, it doesn't mean that there's less money. It just means that you can buy smaller things. Dividing, if you have, I saw someone tweet this, I don't know if it was Nick Saab or something. If you have the number 0.77, 777, and the 7 keep going, it doesn't mean you have infinite money or an infinite number, because it's always will be less than 0.8. So it just means it's divisible, and that's very important to understand. It's like the money system in total, all Bitcoin in the world, eventually will match the value of half of all the transactions. And that's the money system. If you have 10% of that, you have 10% of the money system's value. And just because you can take like a minute part of it and subdivide it, it doesn't mean that 10% is not worth 10%. So that's the best way I can describe it. Do you think human psychology plays a role in why money inflates instead of deflates? I think it's a scam working well by central banks that call, for instance, in US call themselves Federal Reserve. There's nothing federal about it. It was created by private bankers, and also there's no reserve, because there is no reserve. There's no assets there. It's just printing paper, and at gunpoint you're told to use it as money. So yeah, they may have influenced the public opinion, but we will come back to true sound money. It's just you can't stop it. All right, let's see what else we got here. Like, don't people feel more comfortable? All right, reverse Merman again. Like, don't people feel more comfortable paying with 1 than 2 of something instead of 1, then 0.5. Well, the thing is, yeah, forget owning a full Bitcoin. Those days are over. Very few people can afford one full Bitcoin today. There's less full Bitcoins than there are dollar millionaires in the world. So forget owning a full Bitcoin and be happy that you can still buy the future money of the world at a 400x discount, in my opinion. And each Bitcoin consists of 100 million Satoshis. Everything in the future, in my opinion, will be priced in Satoshis. And if you have 0.1% of a Bitcoin, in my opinion, you will be financially independent because you will have $2 million in today's buying power in that future world, in a world where prices keep going down. Now, unless you live in like the most expensive city of the world, or top 10 most expensive, that will be ample to, either from interest rate or just the fact that prices keep dropping, that you can live in, financial, relaxed, unstressed independence the rest of your life, and potentially also your kids' life. So that's my opinion. 0.1 Bitcoin, which they can be, bought for $5,000, is the key to financial independence. That's how early it still is. Don't look at, in my opinion, Ripple, ADA, and all of those. Short term, yes, they might pump, but guess what? On eToro, where as a popular investor, I'm competing with other popular investors, or part of that program, that are trading a lot of different currencies. Sometimes short term, some of them do great, but when you have that overall, portfolio, I am ahead of all of them, except, well, a few that if you throw the dart at the right time at 50 different cryptocurrencies, one of them, in one period of time will outperform. But of the ones, the traders or popular traders, and I don't trade a lot, a hodl, that sit on, I sit on Bitcoin, and they trading different cryptocurrencies. I am by far ahead of all of them in terms of performance. My 12 months performance is about 450%. Number 2 has a 200 something. Okay, it's a huge difference in terms of performance. And this strategy so far, with being 100% exposed to Bitcoin at this phase of the bull run, has absolutely smashed performance. All right. So what else we hear? Let me try and scroll through. I am coming through. Let's say Poppy is saying it here. Absolutely. Bitcoin below 100,000 is just, it's on sale. Don't sweat it whether you pay 48,000 or 52. We're looking at a $20 million target. What if you're sitting right now and looking at 48,000? You're like, oh, I only want to pay 45, and then it goes to above 60. Then you lost the boat. This is a rounding error. Just, in my opinion, forget about that short term and look at the long term that is more predictable, in my opinion. Yeah, strike team in the house. Sean Stacken. All right, what else do we have? Let me see if I'm squishing. I'm catching up, guys. I'm catching up. I know if you just written some questions, you'd like to hear my answer. I'll get to it. Don't worry. It's banging on your chest. Oh, my cord is. All right, I'll see if I can do something. What else we got? I'm racing through the chat, trying to catch up. That one I took already. Yes, I will try and do something for sharing so you guys can use that as well. Otherwise, obviously, I'd be happy as well if you use the video, send that to people that you want to understand this train of thought. You don't have to agree with everything, but if you agree with some of it, I think that things look quite... I think I have caught up. Right. All right, so there's no further questions right now. So at least if you ask a question now, you don't have to wait for my answer. Otherwise, of course, I'll just cut it short. Count Bitcoin. Looks like you're going to go to Miami for that Bitcoin conference we had. There's going to be amazing speakers. Jack Dorsey, founder and CEO of Twitter and Square. There's Chamath, a very, often quoted and interviewed VC investor that has phenomenal track record. Who else? Obviously now when I'm sitting live and trying to remember it, I am forgetting. Anyways, all right. Thank you guys. Thank you very much for viewing and participating. Thanks for your questions in the chat. I hope you find it somewhat useful. I'd love to know in the comments if you did, if there's anything you disagree with. And yeah, if you want to see further comment in the future, further content in the future, of course, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification button. I don't post all the things that Puppy and I do on Toxic Happy Hour on the same channel. I don't post all of it on YouTube. So if you want to make sure not to miss any of these interviews, that could help you out. All right. Finally, I just want to say that, as I usually do in Toxic Happy Hour, be careful of not storing more value in dirty fiat currency. It's a built-in policy of stealing the value of your savings. So don't store more in it than you're willing to have slowly and steadily eaten away every single year. Tomorrow 11 a.m. PST, as I mentioned, we're doing the next Toxic Happy Hour. I'm looking forward to see my friend Puppy again. And he's just been on the Once Bitten podcast. It was great actually to hear some more stories there than I knew already. Once Bitten is Daniel Prince. He's been on Toxic Happy Hour 3 times. And he's doing some great podcasts. You can find Once Bitten on your podcast app. All right. Thank you so much, Grace. I will have an awesome night. Honestly, I feel I have deserved to, go out and have a phenomenal ribeye steak tonight. Yeah, maybe some lobster bisque. I haven't had that for many years. I saw on the menu when I checked it out online that they have that. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. And yeah, hope to see some of you tomorrow at 11 a.m. PST when we have Bitcoin Meister from UK, a very kind-hearted, good guy who's also spreading the word of Bitcoin in an easily understandable way. We have him on Toxic Happy Hour. To the next one, hopefully tomorrow. Bye for now.